CBS News digital journalist Alex Pena joins us now by Skype. Hi, Alex. Where are you right now?
Right now, I'm on the tail end of where the accident happened. It's actually the staging area now for what is the recovery. Last night, we actually got on the scene a little bit after midnight when most of the casualties had been taken from the train already. But what we saw was the remnants of a truly horrific train accident. I was actually able to walk a little bit along the tracks last night when there were dozens and dozens of emergency personnel combing through the wreckage. And what I was able to see was really devastating. You could see personal items scattered across the tracks. As I began to walk a little bit more and more up towards the accident, I could see seats that had been clearly ejected from the train lying in the grass, sort of rolling over in the wind. There was a lot of dust being blown up from the rocks. So a really eerie scene last night. As well, at the time, there were still some persons who were unaccounted for, so I was able to witness some search and rescue dogs going inside of the cabins. So that was really the scene last night. Right now, the media has actually been pulled about 200 to 300 yards, more or less, away from the train accident. These white vehicles behind me and these police officers, they are actually part of the recovery team. We just witnessed a few heavy vehicles, equipment going inside to potentially recover some of these train tracks and the train wreckage.
Alex, you mentioned it was an eerie scene last night. We were just looking at some of that video that you shot. Very graphic, too, indeed. One of the trains looked like it was just basically broken in half.
Yes, it very much looked more like an explosion than anything else. But there were some parts that had been had holes in it, very large holes and gaping holes. Other parts looked like they had been scrunched up as well. Just having all of the firefighters with their flashlights kind of in a dark atmosphere definitely made it a very eerie environment.
And Alex, one of the shots I think coming up here is looks like you're walking right alongside the train itself with the power lines down.
Yes, so actually most of the power lines were down from the start of the train accident to the end. So you saw actually a lot of the emergency personnel being very careful, directing us to be very careful because the scene at the time was still very dangerous. We knew that they were taking precautions as well as I made sure I took precautions, but we wanted to get up close and see, what happened and what it looks like when such a terrible accident happens on a train track like this.
Alex, you were so close, and Elaine and I have been curious because when we look at some of these aerial shots, we have seen some other tankers that seem as if they're very close by. Do you know anything about those? Because it's the way this train derailed, it was coming around that bend, and it looks like they were really close to these tankers that are off to the side.
Yeah, the tankers were there when I got there last night. I don't know the status of if they were part of that train cart or not, but they were certainly involved in the incident because you had investigators going around those tankers as well. Excuse me. But so I don't know if they were exactly part of that exact train, but they certainly were looking at them as part of the accident, and it was certainly part of the accident scene last night.
Alex, I'm wondering, because you were one of the first people on the scene in terms of media, we've seen your pictures, we've seen how close you got. What did it sound like? Was there any kind of noise that was coming from the rescuers? Any sounds at all that you heard?
To the surprise of many viewers, I would have to say that it was very quiet for what appeared to be such a very chaotic scene. The emergency personnel, this is something that they practice. They obviously have mass casualty drills, so they seemed very ordered. They seemed very drilled in what they were doing. So in a sense, it was very calm. It didn't feel like they were chaotically running around and trying to figure out what to do. Again, we did arrive a few hours after this had happened. I can only imagine how chaotic the scene was originally. We know that most of the first responders were just neighbors who heard it happen. So at the point that I got there was mostly emergency personnel who are very trained and very skilled in what they do. So the scene actually felt very calm to me, which in contrast, you might think it might have felt a little more chaotic.
Right, and as you pointed out, you got there right after midnight. The actual crash happened around 9:30, as we're still looking at some of these unbelievable pictures of a mangled mess in front of us. Alex, anything else that you want to point out today? It must be so much different.
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting. We were able to talk to some of the neighbors who live just across the street. And actually something that one of the women I spoke with said was that this avenue that we're on right now, she said, it's actually a very busy avenue, and they're used to car accidents and loud sounds coming from this street. But she said when she heard this happen, this train accident happen, they knew something completely different had happened. She ran outside and she was actually able to see firefighters escorting injured people right across her porch and into a bus, where, as we know, they brought them to the hospital, over 80 plus people to the hospital. But so this was a very, very intimate experience for the neighbors who lived just feet and maybe 50 feet from these train tracks,
All
tracks
right.
that they know very well.
All right. Amazing perspective there from CBS News digital journalist Alex Pena. Thank you so much.